Hey, good morning, Ken and Hamad. This is coaching session. See, June 22nd, 2025. We're just wondering what's wrong with the world right now. I know what's wrong with my country. Good Lord, unbelievable stuff. All we do is pray for peace and cooler heads. But man, it's going to get worse rather than better. I think I'm really concerned. See what am I? Let's see what I got going this week. So today I have to finish my artificial intelligence lessons learned briefing. What I should really do is be a guest speaker at my own college and get up on stage with the 1,500 students and faculty and just tell them everything that we've done in the last year and where I think this stuff is all heading and why they should be concerned. But what I think I'm going to do instead is prepare a desk side briefing with video and slides and record it on Zoom so that everybody can listen to it individually and not in a large group. And that way they have the recording and it should have a bunch of other resources that they can pick and choose. And it'll be easier for me to embed insidious ideas, controversial ideas. Like I'm going to give them a framework to assess their own faculty and the faculty's position on AI. Because you could be a true believer, you could be leaning towards adopting it, you could be a skeptic, you could be reluctant, you could be resisting it, you could be cynical, or you could be completely unaware of it. I mean, it's hard to imagine that. I can't imagine anybody's unaware of it. So, depending on which category you're in as a teacher, that's going to have a huge impact on the use and understanding and the development of AI in the classroom over the whole year. How would you like to be a student who's excited about the potential of AI and have a cynical faculty member? You might actually worry about using it and learning how to use it properly. And you wouldn't find any opportunities to use it because the cynic would be either forbidding it or marking you down for its use. So, in my view, that the AI is, I could argue that AI is so important that you can't allow the faculty to not use it. Like you said, dude, this is a class on mathematics, and you're not letting them use calculators, computers, and computer programming. You're making them use an abacus or memorize formulas. That's stupid. And it's harmful. I would go further and make the argument that there's so many units that are already using it in a powerful way that you would be better off staying in that unit and working for a year and take our correspondence course rather than come here for a year and not use AI. Like it would set you back a year. It would be worse. You'd be in a worse relative position because you weren't being exposed to cutting edge technology. So that would be a controversial statement on the stage, but I can make that kind of statement in a little hidden video. 20 minutes in and sneak that in, some of that shit. So, but I got to prepare that. I got to prepare the video briefing anyway, just in case somebody does think it's a good idea that I give that speech. So I got to have something that sounds extemporaneous and all that. So I just think it's better to talk to people directly and let them discuss it in class than it is to have a great big parade. So Monday, I'm gonna do tomorrow. I'm gonna do sacred fire Reiki, some energy work. I've been working with some Reiki practitioners, so we'll see how that goes. I'm trying to test fire it for some of our traders to see if there's some scientific evidence for it that it's not just a placebo, that there are some payoffs. I think it's geared towards the belief of the person going through it, which in some ways is the placebo effect. There's enough evidence that it's not random that it maybe I'm gonna give it a try and see what it looks like. And other than that, let's see, my wife's out with her sisters in California, so my son and I are trying to uh, live in that part of the house that will pass inspections. We're trying to not ruin things for her return. Yeah, other than that, everything's pretty good here. Trading's been, it's intraday only for me. I mean, the swing trades are just getting obliterated. You may see something that's up 1% intraday and gaps 5% against you on this. So I've got only core and only intraday, no swings whatsoever, no follow through. And I don't know how the market changes from that going forward. I don't, what's the driving force that return to normal? This is the most abnormal that you could expect, that. So I'm still staying with Canada, Mexico, Australia. I took off the India swing. I just think they're too vulnerable to politics and violence. And I'm keeping the global defense thing. That turned out to be a good move. And long on energy prices, because that's, of course, that's Iran's primary means of retribution. So that's other than that, just keeping my powder dry, and that's about it. So, all right, what's going on over there?
Yeah, so I kind of spent the last, I want to say 2, 3 weeks trying to figure out what to do, and typically I, I find out what direction I want to go by trying out multiple different directions. That's just how I work, no matter.
Yep.
And I think when I overdo that, trying out in too many different directions, I get to a point where I start getting frustrated with myself, and that's typically when reflecting on the situation is actually the solution. You've done all that work. Now reflect on some of the work you've done,
Yeah.
and now you know where to go, sort of a thing. So 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 I had the call with kind of reflecting on what you said to me when we spoke the last weekend, and then I had a call with Eric and Kevin twice last week. Just trying to find out what they're doing, what am I doing, what are some of the points that we could probably collaborate on, learnings and all of that. That was really good. It was really interesting seeing how different people are applying, the learnings and the kind of the standards, and I'm looking forward to kind of working more with them, helping them analyze their data, and then by doing so, maybe I learn something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one side of it. The other side of it was, I spent the entire day going through my shadow work, because I realized there were a few moments last week where I kind of, I wasn't me. Let's put it that way. And that kind of covers everything from just kind of the way I respond to things, whether it's trading or outside, the way I was doing my work, the way I was just behaving, all of it. So, and as I was doing my shadow work, it turns out that, yeah, I mean, I've been going through a rough period since, rough. I don't know if I want to call it rough, but yeah, where my system is unaligned in the market since May. And the big learning out of that is, now that you are proficient to know when your system is in and out of line, if you can't cut down your position sizing, just go to zero and work on developing new systems in that period of time.
Yeah.
I guess that's the next best thing. And kind of, thinking about this experience and what I've gone through, it really turns out to be a very positive thing because it was a number one fantastic lesson because it showed you exactly, when to cut your position sizing
Yeah.
and how rough it can go on for.
Yeah.
Um, on average, I'm profitable every month on average. Like let's say most months I'm profitable over the past year.
Yeah.
Maybe only 3 or 4 months where I wasn't profitable. However, I can't take that statistic as the Bible or the Quran or set in stone or whatever, because
Yeah.
I'll get these months where,
Yeah. That was then. This is now.
yeah, yeah. And so, again, great learning in that regard. And the second thing was, okay, so now you know what you need to work on. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to look for other opportunities to apply that system, or are you going to work on finding ways to to generate some kind of return during these environments? And now I think what I'm turning to is, and this is what I'm going to be doing next week, is I'll be paper trading the 30 minutes, 2 hours, and 4 hours timeframes. And kind of one of the patterns that I want to use is trying to getting into the turning points much faster by using the 30-minute chart. So locating where the turning point could be on the 4 hour and the 2 hour and just like hitting it on the 30-minute chart.
Yeah.
And hopefully
I think the at least for intraday, the 30-minute chart turning point feels decisive. When the RL30 on the 30-minute chart, which is 900 minutes, which is 15 hours, which is 2 days, that turning point confirmed by the 30-minute owl feels significant.
Yeah.
Then you got to locate that within the 5 and 10 day look back period. Is it at an extreme on those? And when all that lines up, it feels like you got a 2 to 3 days of a directionality that could fall through. That's essentially what I've been doing.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is think about market opportunities as a great big circle of different types, and then you have developed smaller circles of areas of expertise, and in those circles, it's a matter of timing and target and seasonality. That's working in that region. When that starts to underperform, now think of that as a traffic light. Red, yellow, green. When that thing comes out of green into yellow and it's just normal level, normal load. Okay, it should cut. But if it drops into red, now you're going to say, where do I look for the additional opportunities while this thing heals? Should I be taking the opposite side of the trade? That's a technique. The advantage of that is you're already familiar with the instrument. You should be framing it in both directions anyway and be mindful of the direction price is going. If you're consistently losing money, it's time to check to see, do I have a bias and do I have a directional bias? I'm only wanting to go the direction I want it to go, and I'm not following price. Because if I'm losing money consistently, then the other guy that's trading the opposite side of my rules is making money consistently. So if there is sort of a persistent loss in there, then the first place I look is my directional bias in there? Am I genuinely framing it in both directions? Am I being open to the possibility of the other direction? And so you get that has to be a deliberate test. The next place you look is the nearest neighbor theory, which is like, I want to same patterns, but maybe shift the time a little bit, different targets, but generally speaking, try to find where in that local region the opportunity is rotated to it. The third place is to say, let me look at the large bubble of opportunities. Am I localized in one part of that galaxy? Like I was thinking, as what's the opposite of equities right now is probably the New Zealand dollar.
Yeah.
Is there something in the forex that
Yeah.
that operates, quite distinct from? So that's really, changing the target set and the mindset, a fresh market, and sometimes just getting out of your own head, getting out of your own space, taking a long walk, and going to check that out is sometimes that's all you need is just that breath of fresh air. Sometimes you find things, but to me, the something around the currencies feels like there's opportunity there, and I just think that's what we got to be proficient in currencies.
Yeah.
For the long run, anyway. So I mean, so those are the three kind of strategies. One is it's the inside game. Have I let a directional bias creep in? Has the time frame that used to work now no longer working, and what's the other time frame? So I try to look at all the time frames every week. Certainly on the weekend just to get a fresh look. From 1 minute all the way out to 9 days. I use that, try to get that systematic look to see what I see. So that the technique of the multi-time frame, multi-lens analysis. A lot of times I only need to do that every 2 months, and then the market just sort of stays in that same logic. I've got the framework built, and I can see where it is. So there's no update to it. It's just it's progressing. But at turning points in market conditions, sometimes you got to do that. And any time that I'm picking a new target to work on, I'll do that formal multi-time frame, just so I get a really thorough grounding in what's been going on in the last 6 months. I think that's what the 9 day bar. If you get like 60, you need. I think I like to see 60 bars on the chart. 30 shows me what is creating the river and the Bollinger Bands and the Arthur, and then 30 days prior to that, you kind of see is this thing contracting or expanding? That's really what I'm looking at. Was there a difference in those two sets? And so 60 bars of 9 days is 504. That's 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's about and in the US, that's about as far as you can legitimately look back, because technology will have doubled in that time and something new. I mean, 2 years ago, AI was just a whisper. It was a novelty, and it's become transformational in 2 years. Like all the papers, I've read 1,000 papers on AI in the last 6 months. And everything written before 2024, before 1 January 2024, is almost not worth reading, because it's been updated and the capacity is expanded, and the concepts, there's new cutting edge concepts, and that's how fast it's going. It's almost faster than the semiconductor power with Moore's law. In fact, there's probably got to go do some research, find out what is the equivalent of Moore's law for AI power. What's that curve look like? Because some would argue that we've almost exhausted all of the training data, so there's no new untapped sets of data to train on. So now we're trying to refine that data. And oh, by the way, so much of the new data coming in is AI generated. So it's almost like the Russian Romanovs and inbreeding. There's an inbreeding problem with knowledge, which is one of the vulnerabilities that has to be in an organizational leader's mind for the next 3 to 5 years. Is how do I protect against echo chamber effect and over alignment, and that's not just a phenomenon of AI. That's just curve fitting. What we do with curve fitting for prices is what AI and idiots are doing for knowledge itself, is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I get, so anyway, that's what I would introduce some fresh air into your reflections, and is the I'd probably just go look at currencies for a while,
Yeah.
and maybe straight commodities. There's I don't do much in that. Um,
See, one of the things I'm also kind of doing simultaneously is I've kind of identified, MNQ, gold, and oil,
yeah,
basically these three future contracts.
yeah,
And I'm just waiting for whatever one of them kind of creeps out of,
yeah,
crosses the 10 period moving average, where the ATR percentage crosses the 10
yeah.
period moving average, and then that becomes my target. So, I mean, unfortunately, I kind of came up with that thing last week. And I didn't get a chance to trade oil, but I was looking at the chart for the past, month when oil kind of spiked up. And yeah, there are opportunities that I can.
Yeah, I mean, gold and oil, they are so central to industrial operations and government operate that there's just that natural channel limits that it's just
Yeah,
that makes it different than speculative high tech companies
yeah.
for explosive growth. But so it's very much ocean currents and tidal forces.
Mm.
So there's something in it. Yeah, I would stay fresh with it. I just, yeah, I just feel like I guess the Canadian dollar and the New Zealand dollar, and maybe even the Swiss franc is sort of the boring. I have to go take a look at those now.
I mean, see, back when I was in FX, like euro dollar was the boring one, right? And if you
Yeah,
wanted some volatility, you'd go for sterling yen. Now, lately, what I've been noticing is that euro dollar is picking up in volatility in comparison to what it was,
yeah,
especially as Europe is moving off of austerity, right?
yeah, and away from the U.S.
And yeah, yeah. So I think just kind of from what I'm seeing, that's been quite healthy for the euro. But you're seeing it rally and all of that.
If I was
Uh,
Europe, if I was Europe, I would replace the U.S. with Russia in NATO.
oh yeah,
I mean, you just solved your energy problem, and you solved your security problem.
exactly.
I mean, come on, guys. What?
If I want to be friends with you, I'm not gonna come over and slap you. I'm gonna come
That's
over,
right.
buy you a beer, and
You got to
talk
live in
nicely
the
to you.
neighborhood. Your house is in the neighborhood. Fix your
Exactly.
neighborhood. Why are you letting a guy from across the ocean with orange skin and a third grade education and the emotional maturity of a toddler? Why are you letting that guy? And I think Europe is sort of, Canada is already the adult.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. All right, man. What else you got?
Yeah, that's kind of where I am in my development.
Yeah.
One thing I want to do is I want to listen to this video again, definitely tomorrow, and like take a lot more notes on it, because I think a lot of
Yeah.
what you said is very actionable in
Yeah.
terms of playing the longer time frames.
Yeah.
My focus currently is developing, let's say, intraday system two, which is a slow intraday system that kind of trades. I take a trade, I can run it between an hour to 8 hours. I don't mind. You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of where my development is. My focus is like kind of looking for, as I said, turning points in the 2 hours, 4 hours, executing them on the 30-minute chart. Um, and that's kind of what I'm looking at. Um, and for me, mostly it's paper. It's going to be paper trading, and kind of march
Yeah.
forward. Develop system two, intraday system two,
Yeah.
and keep an eye out for anything that kind of crosses my radar that seems interesting.
Yeah. We got to respect the tides, and you know, it doesn't know you're frustrated, and
No,
so we got to follow that to its source. We got to release that. That's why I'm trying this stuff with the Reiki energy. I'll keep you guys posted. I'm in a storytelling circle with people who use narrative and for creativity and critical thinking. And so I'm giving them, they all do that for a living. Like they're either consultants in that area or trying to create a consultancy business. And most of the time they're working with people that already are true believers in that area that are kind of in that lifestyle already. And I bring a different sensibility to it. I appreciate storytelling and indigenous ways of knowing, but I also have a sort of a military efficiency and a business slick approach and a researcher's mentality to say, all right, let's go. And I'm willing to, let them use me as a case study to demonstrate what it is that they do. And I'm open up, interested in the experience. So we'll see how that goes. And it'd be like it's a 5-hour session tomorrow. It's like, oh man, I think I'll just work from home tomorrow after soccer. Yeah, it's up. The heat index was 108 this morning. Fahrenheit. Yeah,
Oh,
it's like, it's a combination. It's sort of like the air temperature times the humidity
oh, okay.
and what it feels like. So
Oh,
the temperature was around 98 Fahrenheit, but the humidity was such that it felt like 108.
I
Dogs were
didn't
ready to
realize.
come in.
Didn't realize Kansas was this humid. Was this humid, huh? That sounds
Yeah,
really humid.
yeah. Well, we're on the eastern side, and there's a major river down around
Oh,
here, but
fair enough.
we actually the eastern side gets quite a lot of rain.
Hmm.
Like the western part of Kansas truly belongs to the Great Plains, but that's
Hmm.
about an hour and a half to the west of me, where the little rolling hills around the rivers become the great big wide plain. You can actually see the transition in the geology. There's a point on Highway I-70 on the west side of Topeka, our state capital. When you come out of the highway that circles, you come out of the loop and you start heading west towards Fort Riley, Kansas, and there's about a mile long steady climb. And you get to the top of that, you look out, and suddenly you can see 250 miles in every direction.
Wow.
And instead of these little rolling hills with a lot of stream beds and all that, scrub brush and little trees, gullies, suddenly get up there, and now it is wide open plains.
Wow.
It's like the difference between the ocean and a pond.
Yeah.
And when you just realize, holy, and it just goes forever. I mean, that I-70 west of Topeka is a straight line to Denver, 8 hours away. And if your car's wheels are aligned and balanced, I mean, you can go to sleep on I-70 and wake up and you're still there. And the mountains haven't moved, but you went 200 miles and the mountains are still, it's just like, oof. And that's what the Great Plains is like.
Yeah.
Different world altogether. So, all right, man. I want to
All
get
right.
some work done. I just went through, now that Linda's out, I'm doing a lot of office purging and clothing purging and all that, just to, trying to downsize and
Yeah.
try to remember, hey, my kids don't actually want all my stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't use it all, and I can't even reread it all. I just pulled another 250 books out of my library to go take it down to the used bookstore and let them find a better home for somebody to read them while there's still people that read. And it was hard letting some of those go.
Mm.
I get like 10 books on statistics, on applied statistics. And it's like, really can't, you know enough statistics already, and you know where to find it online if you need it.
Yeah.
Do you really need the books? I don't really need the books. That's hard though. Oh, hard letting go. God dang, it's hard to let go. And shoes. I gotta do shoes this afternoon. I probably got 30 pairs of uh athletic shoes that are like trail runners that have the zero drop. So it's like they're almost like flats and
Yeah.
just a tiny little, and I wear them. They get the nice the nice Goodyear gripper soles and all that. And I wear them for soccer
Yeah.
because I'm very lets me feel the ground and flat footed, and it's really good. And I just like them, and I buy them used. So I pay 20 or 30 bucks for them, and I freaking love them. And I couldn't wear them all in
Yeah.
the next 5 years. So I got to think hard about that. I'm looking at suit jackets, and I'm not going to wear suits anymore. I just don't want to.
I mean, your daughter's getting married soon, so you might need to get
Well,
one.
I think, but they're both kind of leaning towards sensible marriage ceremony.
Okay.
You know, go down to the justice of the peace and put a great big check in the bank in their investment accounts. Because I told them, I
Yeah.
said, look at these people. I said, look at these people spending $30,000, $50,000 on a wedding. Do you think that's making them happy? Who are they spending that money for? Now let's take a look at the growth of your investment accounts, which we started when you were 10 years old. And think about what you want to do with $30,000. And they sort of, yep, got it. They're pretty
Yeah.
sensible in that way. They take after their mother
Mm.
in that sense. We had a military wedding at the local military chapel in uniform, and that was a couple $100 for the and done. So
Doesn't need to be more than
they're
that.
sensible in that way.
Doesn't need to be more than that. Yeah, I find that the simpler you keep the marriage, it has a really positive impact on the relationship in the
Yeah,
future. I
it
kept my
really
marriage
does.
really like
It really
my
does.
wedding is completely out of the ordinary.
Yeah,
Um, a
yeah,
small dinner with the family and then a small party with my friends and my wife's friends, and that was it.
yeah. I just that's my style anyway. It's a
Yeah.
marathon, not a sprint. All right, buddy. Go take care
Cool.
of that family.
Yeah, I'll see you
You'll be
later.
good. Yep, we'll see you later.